If you are a nurse that's had any interest in fitness since 2018, you've probably seen me on Facebook or Instagram. I'm Justin Bauer, and my team and I have helped endless busy women transform their bodies and lives quickly, and we've worked with an absolute ton of nurses over the last few years, to the point where if I'm at the hospital with my dad, some of the nurses stop me and say, hey, I think I get your posts on Instagram. Now, do we just coach nurses? No, we work with anybody, any career-driven women in any field, help them get breakthrough success. But I will say, we have a soft spot for our nurses, and we have this fat loss perfected for the 12-hour shifts and the whole nurse lifestyle. Now, at the end of this video, I'll link a useful playlist for all the healthcare professionals out there on a fitness journey, but people always ask me how I got here, and I just wanted to make this video because the story's crazy. So this story actually begins in October of 2009. This was a Friday night. I was 1 week into my senior year of swim season. I'm at the last football game of the year, and I lose my car keys. I call my dad. I'm like, hey dad, I lost my keys. I'm at the football game. I know I'm such an idiot. Can you please bring me the replacements? By the time my dad gets there, I already found them. So he gives me the replacement keys. He's like, how the hell do you do this? What the heck are you doing? Says something funny, he goes off on his way. But little did I know that that's actually the last time I'd be able to talk to him normally. So we go get food after the game. I go home and I find him on the couch, struggling to move. He's struggling to breathe. He's making these really weird noises. I didn't really know if he was joking because he was kind of a funny guy, but I very quickly realized that something was wrong. So I call 911 before I even wake up my mom. They rush over, it's paramedics, EMTs, the whole 9 yards. Mom and I get in the car, we get to the first hospital, get in the ER, we realize that he had a stroke. But by the time we hear this, he's already life flighted to downtown Cleveland because this is apparently a very severe stroke. So for the next 6 years of our lives, we'd be spending hours every night at the hospital because we thought that we were gonna be losing him. And this is on top of me swimming 20 hours per week, dealing with my grieving mom, being alone on Thanksgiving and Christmas. And he was very heavily sedated this entire time. And as sad as this entire thing was, we got very close with his nurses. Now, for me, I did not know a single thing about nursing. I was 17, so I'm starting to piece everything together. Like, okay, they're here kind of late, like, oh goodness, they work 12-hour shifts, some of them work overnight. Do they have to eat this food too? They were always incredibly nice and explained everything to us. They were always upbeat, and literally since then, we've always, my dad, me, my family, we just love our nurses. So at this point, I learned a ton about nurses in the healthcare industry and the entire life that comes around with it. And I'll never forget one of the days one nurse told me, some of them get off a shift at 7 a.m. and they just go get margaritas. So I'm like, all right, these chicks are crazy. So my dad ends up stabilizing. It's a complete mess for 8 months. This medication can't work with that. This can't work with this cancer treatment. It was just a mess, but he's finally released, and they wrote studies on him. The doctors are presenting this at seminars, and we continue to live our life, do the best we can with the aphasia and all the other ailments, and just try to live as normally as possible. Now, fast forward to 2016, I'm living in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I'm on the way to my Indian store to get a giant bag of rice. And there's this new random gym that props up. I go in there, I look at this, there's hanging things, there's kickboxing bags, plenty of weights that had this real gritty city feel to it. Had a bunch of neon, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm a gymnast, I'm a mixed martial artist, I love weightlifting, this place seems perfect. So I walk in there and I meet the owner, and his name is Franklin. So Franklin is this very funny, direct, sturdy guy from Nigeria. Big personality, hilarious guy. And I go in, I'm like, hey Franklin, my name's Justin, this gym is so cool. I start asking him all these questions. So I'm thinking about the timing and the membership and how I can fit this into my schedule. And Franklin's not answering any of my questions, but I can tell he's like interested in me. He's like, oh Justin, do you work out? Like I can tell you work out. And he just had this like very direct way of asking. I'm like, oh yeah, you know, state swimmer in Ohio, did gymnastics, did martial arts, like coaching people online. He's like, okay. And then he's like smiling and nodding. He's like, go climb that rope over there. So I go to this rope thing. And guys, mind you, I had been training so much of this. Like I did so much body weight training. I fly up the rope. I get up, I get down, I'm having fun. So he's like, all right, cool. Justin, what are you doing Saturdays from 9 a.m. to 11? And I'm like, I don't know, I think I'm maybe free. He's like, okay, great, well, you're hired. I need you to run the classes on Saturdays. So he basically hires me on the spot. Like I kind of didn't have a choice because he was so direct, he was funny, he was super nice. I'm like, all right, Saturdays. Mr. Franklin, 9 a.m., I guess I'll be there at 8:45. So I'm maybe in there for 10 minutes total, and I walk out of this with a part-time group coaching job at a gym called Ozone in Milwaukee. So the first Saturday rolls around, 5 women in their mid-late 30s, and 4 of them are nurses. We're blasting music, having a great time, getting super sweaty, and within just a couple of weeks, we had 16 people per class. We maxed out the classes. Everyone's having a good time. They want to come do Justin's workouts on Saturdays. Now, it was more nurses. They were bringing their husbands. Now, I'm maybe 2 months into my time here at Ozone, and I started to realize all of the problems with conventional fitness, especially for all these nurses working 12s. So one of my star clients said to me after class, she goes, "Justin, I love these classes. I always burn so many calories on my smartwatch. I'm just not losing any weight." So what she did is she grabs her stomach. She's like, "Justin, I really just want to get rid of this. Like, I really want to lose 20 pounds. So this is after class, and I'm like, well, 90% of a goal like this is nutrition. So what kind of nutrition are you following? And she's telling me about keto and paleo and Nutrisystem and fasting. And she started going into the details about she felt so guilty cheating on her diet, and she was on and off and falling off, and she felt embarrassed about being the person that does diets and falls off. And on top of this, she was a nurse. So I thought back to all of the nurses that worked with my dads and the 12-hour shifts and the food. I'm like, Susan, that stuff barely works for regular people, and you're a night shift nurse. So I told her their full story about my dad, and we connected on the ICU and like the crazy nurse-client ratios and night shift and all this sort of stuff. And I kind of walked through what I would do in her situation. So I told her, Susan, it's like, look, if we're trying to lose 20 pounds, this is not gonna be a conventional diet for you. And I even told her, like, look, Susan, these group classes, they're a ton of fun and we all love it, but I'd only ever do this once a week if I were you. So this is when I started understanding their goals and their lifestyle, and I started coaching our nurses a bit differently. And this is when these nurses started having real traction on their goals for the first time since nursing school. So they mentioned they felt in control, they weren't fighting this diet, they were able to see results on these shifts rather than always fight this battle that they were fighting for years. But in 2018, Franklin's wife had to move, and he made the very tough decision to shut down the gym. So at this point, I understood the nurse challenges, I had a recipe for success, but we'd still only ever done this being confined to a gym. So we had supplements, we had private classes, we had meal delivery, we had these 12-month packages, like all of this stuff that I didn't really think was the absolute best interest for our clients. So I had this opportunity, I had the skill, I also had a little bit of the confidence to be like, hey, look, I can do this, we can make this work, and essentially wipe the slate clean and start something from the ground up. So something with nutrition coaching that was realistic, and fitness where people could exercise at home, utilize their equipment, go to the gym if they had time, show nurses how to have takeout cocktails, all these sort of things, and be a message away rather than only seeing people 2 or 3 times a week. So the ultimate goal here was just get people quicker results, make it more enduring than just kind of spinning your wheels with all these conventional methods. So all of that together is really the story of how JBF came JBF. Transferring people without these excessive diets, without mindless exercising, and finding more balance that fits your lifestyle, where you're not sacrificing everything just to stay in shape. So that's essentially the big story about why you work with so many nurses. Since then, this thing has just entirely snowballed, where it's been more nurses, and we already had a lot set up, and COVID hits, and nurses are the ones that are working and stress eating and all this sort of other stuff that came with that time. So it's been an awesome journey. It's been a challenging journey. We always love working with our nurses. When I see someone come in, it's just like we have the right recipe for them. It feels so awesome seeing them grow, seeing them get the results, making these really deep changes. And that's essentially the story. So if you ever see us talk about healthcare or speak specifically to nurses, we have all this experience and all this deep backstory. So if you're new here, I appreciate you watching this. I appreciate you being part of the movement. If you're in healthcare, you can grab access to our shift survival guide down below. I'll also link to a video playlist breaking down some more stuff for busy nurses that help them have breakthrough success that you can replicate as well. So you can click down below to get those videos. Appreciate every one of you guys listening. Looking forward to connecting, and I'll see you in the next video.